What's up, you guys? Welcome to the video. Today is a good collection video with all the thematic truck, with all the good trucks out there. We'll start with Gears Blue Thunder. Now this thing, Space Gold chassis wheels with white roll cage and tires with golden BKT printing, got astronaut treads. Moving on to Ice Grave Digger. Now this thing, blue chassis wheels with white roll cage with blue see-through tires with BKT printing, got ice treads. Moving on to Zombie Megalodon. Now this thing, black chassis with red roll cage with green wheels with glitter tires with black BKT printing. Moving on to Galaxy's Monster Mutt Dalmatian. Now this thing, got cyan chassis with black roll cage with cyan BKT printing and bead locks, see-through wheels with purple tires. Moving on to Fire Son of a Digger. Now this thing, red chassis wheels with yellow roll cage with red wheels and BKT printing, got see-through orange tires with fire treads. Moving on to Hunter Max D. Now this thing, gray chassis tires with brown roll cage with mahogany wheels and chrome BKT printing. Moving on to Gears Alien Invasion. Everything looks the same as Blue Thunder. Moving on to Ice Dragon. Everything looks the same as Grave Digger. Moving on to Zombie El Toro Loco. Now this thing, black chassis with yellow roll cage with red wheels with glitter tires with black BKT printing. Moving on to Galaxy's Bakugan Dragonoid. Now this thing, everything looks the same as the Dalmatian. Moving on to Fire Great Clips Mohawk Warrior. It doesn't have a mohawk. Everything looks the same. Son of a Digger. Moving on to Hunter Earthshaker. Everything looks the same as Max D. Moving on to Neo Galaxy Gravedigger. Now this thing, white chassis with dark pink roll cage with pink wheels with turquoise tires with BKT printing. Moving on to the Nitro Gravedigger. Now this thing, pink chassis with turquoise wheels with black roll cage with purple bead locks and BKT printing. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Green. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage with purple bead locks, BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Orange. Now this thing, silver chassis with orange roll cage and wheels with BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Red. Now this thing, silver chassis with red roll cage and wheels with BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Gravedigger Purple. Now this thing, black chassis with purple roll cage with blue wheels with BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs, the 30th Anniversary Gravedigger. No, now this thing, silver chassis with green roll cage and wheels with BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs, the 40th Anniversary Gravedigger. Now this thing got black chassis, silver chassis with black roll cage and wheels with BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Son of a Digger. Now this thing, silver chassis with blue roll cage with purple bead locks, BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Son of a Digger, yellow and purple. Now this thing, dark purple chassis and wheels with yellow roll cage and BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Velociraptor. Now this thing, black chassis with black roll cage and green wheels with BKT printed tires. Feel improving the look. Moving on to BKT Customs Jurassic Attack. Now this thing, guys, silver chassis with purple roll cage with dark blue wheels, BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Bad News Travels Fast. Now this thing, orange chassis with black roll cage and orange bead locks and silver wheels, BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Aftershock. Now this thing got yellow chassis and wheels with blue roll cage, got BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Monster Mutt Dalmatian. Now this thing, red chassis with white roll cage and wheels with BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Megalodon. Now this thing, silver chassis with black roll cage with aqua wheels, BKT printed tires. Moving on to BKT Customs Monster Jam Stunt Truck. Now this thing, yellow chassis and wheels with silver roll cage up BKT printed tires. Moving on to the evolution of Gravediggers. Moving on to the original Gravedigger. Now this thing, silver chassis with black roll cage with yellow wheels. Moving on to Gravedigger the Legend. Now this thing, black chassis and roll cage with green silver wheels. Moving on to the retro Gravedigger. Now this thing, black chassis with green roll cage and wheels. Moving on to Gravedigger 7. Now this thing, silver chassis and wheels with green roll cage with flotation tires. Moving on to the green Ghost Gravedigger. Now this thing, everything looks the same as number 7. Moving on to Son of a Digger. Now this thing got blue chassis and wheels, with silver chassis and wheels with blue roll cage and bead locks. Moving on to the vintage Gravediggers and moving on to the original Gravedigger. Now this thing got black chassis with yellow wheels, flotation tires. Moving on to the grain truck Gravedigger. Now this thing, silver chassis and black chassis and wheels with flotation tires. Moving on to the Grandma Gravedigger. Now this thing got black chassis with dark gold wheels with flotation tires. Moving on to the Gravedigger ride truck. Now this thing, green chassis and wheels. Look at the seats in the back. Moving on to the Nitro Neon trucks. Including the two customs. Moving on to the green Charge Crusher Gravedigger. Now this thing, green chassis, roll cage and tires with white wheels. Moving on to the blue Charge Crusher Son of a Digger. Now this thing got baby blue chassis and tires with dark blue roll cage with white wheels. Moving on to the yellow Charge Crusher Earthshaker. Now this thing, yellow chassis and tires with brown roll cage with white wheels. Moving on to the pink Nitro Neon Calavera. Now this thing got Barbie pink chassis, wheels, and tires with black roll cage. Moving on to the teal Nitro Neon Blue Thunder. Now this thing got teal chassis and wheels with brown roll cage and tires. Moving on to the orange Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing, orange chassis, wheels, and tires with black roll cage. Moving on to the yellow Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing, silver chassis with black roll cage and tires with yellow roll cage and tires with black wheels. Moving on to the green Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing, silver chassis with green roll cage and tires with black wheels. Moving on to purple Nitro Neon Max D. Now this thing got Barbie purple chassis, wheels, and tires with white roll cage. Moving on to Nitro Neon the Joker. Now this thing got red chassis and wheels with purple roll cage with silver tires and a muffler. Moving on to the lime green Nitro Neon Gravedigger. Now this thing, lime green chassis, wheels, and tires with black roll cage. Moving on to the white Max Contrast Megalodon. Now this thing, white chassis and tires with black wheels and roll cage. Moving on to Custom Elementals Trucks Gravedigger. Now this thing, purple chassis with green and yellow wheels on the left, orange and red wheels on the right. with black roll cage with blue tires. Moving on, last but not least, to custom phased out Son of a Digger. Now this thing got 2 white wheels, one white wheel, 2 white tires, and 2 red wheels, and 2 black tires, and silver chassis, white chassis with black roll cage. Well, that's it for the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, or also turn on your notifications to my YouTube channel. Goodbye.